So it's a beginning with a boom. Boom! Welcome to the Australian Poetry Game Hall of Fame. Gladys, Ashley, Sky, and viewers. I'm Thundercloud, Mum calls me James. Washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rains. Tonight we've got Wednesday words, fun and linguistic games on Wednesday the 18th of October 2023. Well, we had a Friday the 13th last weekend. Yeah, it was interesting because I happened to wake up at just after midnight, and it was this tiny, really thin band of storms passed through, and they were just like these little showers, and I just happened to hear it. And this is, and I thought, oh, well, I haven't written for a while, and I just looked at my phone. Oh, look, it's Friday the 13th. And the time was 12:31. I think I finished writing this about 12:48. So there's a lot of numbers in it as I kept looking at my clock. Friday the 13th. It rains briefly and I hear it falling on the tin roof. The witching hour is here once more. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's time to open up the door, let the ghouls and freaks run free once more to free the earth of weapons of war. Ring the holy bell, give a holy yell, cast a spell and open up the gate of hell. To come and cleanse the earth as well of Ukraine, USA, of Israel, who violate and sell the deathly weapons of hell. 1, 2, 3, 1. When then will peace come? 1, 2, 3, 3. We will be free. 1, 2, 3, 4 of war forevermore. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Time to open up the door. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Go! The life, forever life is great. Friday the 13th of October 2023. 1, 2, 4, 8. And no one or nothing can upset you. Being upset is self-directed because you're the only one. You're only upset when you let yourself become affected. Let me read that again. Nothing or no one can upset you. Being upset is self-directed because you're only upset when you let yourself become affected. That's a Thundercloud quote. Right. Now moving right along because, okay, this week it's sort of like one of the anniversaries of the writing of the legend of the bomber gun for me. So it turned up in my feed and I posted that up online. So check that out online. Legend of the Bomber Gun under thundercloudrepairing.com. Now, let's, before we move on, let's acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we broadcast the Camilroy Band by people and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Now, currently, one of these wars that's going on is in Crimea. And long ago, there was an Australian poet called Charles Harpur. I have done this one before, but I did re-find it as I'm going through the book today, and I thought, oh yeah, I like that one. Oh, I don't like it. Actually, I do like it. I do like it because it's really, it's the lyricalness of it. And I've obviously misplaced it because it was right here, I'm sure. Charles Harpur, the words are deeds. Oh yeah, here it is, words are deeds. I've got it, it was right before me. So I'll just begin with a little explanation. At the end of this it mentions two things. Thermopylae, which was a battle in Greece in 480 BC, and Inca Man, a battle in the Crimean War in, what was that, 1855 or something like that?
Something like that.
This is Charles Harpur, and yeah, one known as, well, this book I'm reading out of is Australian Poet 1788 to 1888 by Griffith, Farron and Co. in Sydney. This is words. Words are deeds, the words we hear, may revolutionise or rear a mighty state. The words we read may be a spiritual deed, excelling any fleshly one, as much as the celestial sun transcends a bonfire made to throw the light upon some rare show. A simple proverb tagged with rhyme may colour half the course of time. The pregnant saying of a sage may influence every coming of age. A song in its effects may be more glorious than Thermopylae, and many a lay that schoolboys scan, a nobler feat than Inca Man. It is, yeah, the importance of words in changing the world and affecting people. And on that, I did, as I've pre-read that before, the thought came to me, you know, it's only when we write down our thoughts that writing happens. When we write. Yeah. And so, yeah, I encourage everyone to do regular writing, just little tasks to just randomly write. You know, 1 minute of writing a day, get a journal and just write about what you've done, or write your thoughts, or write a series of questions. Look up on the, ask people, you know, what's a topic I can write about today? Or look out your window and look at a bird and write about that, or your flowers or your gardens. But write, because it's the age of creativity and content creation, and to make truly creative content, we need creative people, not just artificial intelligence doing generative, generic content. Because, yeah, it certainly cannot create the same way a human mind can create. It's a predictive model. So, moving on to that, another one that I have done once before is called The Cloud by Charles Harpur as well. It's quite a long one. So be prepared for a long one. The Cloud. One summer morn, out of the sea waves wild, a speck-like cloud, the season's fated child, came softly floating up the boundless sky. And oh, the sun-parched hills all brown and dry. Onward she glided through the azure air, borne by motivation, without toil or care. When, looking down in her ethereal joy, she marked earth's moilers at their hard employ, and oh, she said, that by some act of grace 'twere mine to succour yon fierce toiling race, to give the hungry meat, the thirsty drink. The thought of good is very sweet to think. The day advanced, and the cloud greater grew, and greater like her desire to do. Some charity to men had more and more as the long sultry summer day on wore, greatened and warmed with her fleecy breast, like a dove fledgling in its downy nest. The heat waxed fiercer until the land glared in the sun as 'twere a monstrous brand, and the shrunk rivers, few and far between, like molten metal lightened in the scene. Ill could earth's sons endure their toilsome state, though they still laboured, for their need was great. And many a long beseeching look they spared towards that fair cloud, with many a sigh that said, "We famish for thy bounty, for our sake. Oh, break, thou in showery blessing, break." "I feel and fain would help you," said the cloud, and towards the earth her bounteous being bowed. But then, remembering a tradition she had in her youth learned from her native sea, that when a cloud adventures from the skies to near the altar of the hills, it dies. A while she wavered and was blown about hither and thither by winds of doubt, but in the midst of heaven at length and all, she stood then suddenly, all still, she stood then suddenly with a keen thrill of light. She said within herself, "I will, yea, in the glad strength of devotion, I will help you, though in helping you I die." Filled with this thought's divinity, the cloud grew world-like, vast, as earthward more she bowed. Oh, never ere while had she dreamed her state so great might be, beneficently great. Of the parched fields in her angelic love, she spread her wings wide like a brooding dove, till, as her purpose deepened, drawing near, divinely awful did her front appear, and man and beasts all trembled at the view, as the woods bowed, though well all creatures knew that near in her, to every kind the same, a great predestined benefactress came. And then wide flashed throughout her full-grown form the glory of her will, the pain and storm of life's dire dread of death, whose mortal threat from Christ himself drew agonizing sweat, flashed seething out of rents amidst her heaps, hissed, jagging downward till a sheety glare, and lowering gloom, and thence with arrowy leaps, hissed, jagging downwards till a sheety glare illumined all the illimitable air. The thunder followed, a tremendous sound, long doubling and reverberating round. Strong was her will, but stronger yet the power of love that now dissolved in a shower, dropping in blessings to enrich the earth with health and plenty, one blooming birth as far as the rain extended o'er the land. A splendid bow the freshened landscape span, like a celestial arc hung in the air by angel artists to illumine there the parting triumph of that spirit fair. The rainbow vanished, but the blessing craved rested upon the land. that the cloud had saved. Yeah. So I've read it before, but I've never really given it that much feeling as that. And it's really quite a feeling. It is, amazing poem, yeah, really. And so, yeah, performance artists, it always helps to pre-read poems before you perform them. All right, so here we go. I've got one more. This is not, before I invite Gladys up. Okay, because Gladys was here first tonight, of course. Reflections of a revolutionary poet. Leigh Hunt, this is, or is it Arthur Pratchett Martin? Oh no, it's Arthur Pratchett Martin. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about Arthur Pratchett Martin. He was born in Woolwich in 1851 and was in what was rural Kent. When he came to Australia, yeah, he was taken out to Melbourne by his parents when under 2 years of age, arriving in Christmas 1852. So there you go. There's a bit more, a big spiel about him, but I'm going to read up on that because I haven't read up about him, but I have read his poem here. Reflections of a revolutionary poet. There's a bit of a lead-in. Leigh Hunt, in an account of his visit to Italy where he met Shelley for the first time for some years, describes the poet as prematurely aged in appearance and as being far less confident than formerly of the effect of his revolutionary doctrines in renovating the world. I regret that I am now unable to lay my hands upon this singularly suggestive passage which gave rise to the following poem. Reflections of a revolutionary poet. Standing upon this distant shore, where the white foamed billows on the rocks, beneath the calm of the fair Italian skies, I see the dead years of my vanished life file past in sad array, bearing aloft utopian schemes like frail distorted hymns. Are these the dreams that filled my waking life? When, as a youth, I strove to stir the world, causing its kings and priests, cursing its priests and kings with frenzied words and with the rapture of a prophet's tongue, hailed the bright advent of the coming day. Has my poor life been but a player's mask, a thing of emptiness and vulgar show? Are these my hopes, my vain, delusive dreams? Were they but children of a fierce self-love? See how they wane and flicker and die out. I know by sad experience that my strength is all unfit to stop the rolling world. My hair is blanched, the lines are on my face, but kings still sway the nations and sleek priests repeat old fables to believing ears. Still, the peasant drags his weary load, unmurmuring in the presence of his lord. All these things remain unchanged, save my weak self. If it may be I was wrong, that what I deemed as foul obstructions to man's onward march are but as stones to ford a rushing stream. The iron sway of kings, the power of priests may help to crush the brutish part in us and fit us for the freer days to come. But can it be that all my hopes were in vain? Surely
Is someone coming in
I
there?
caught a fleeting glimpse of truth and shaped it into verse that cannot die. It must be so. I feel my faith revive. A time shall come, though generations hence, when men will live the grander, freer life that I foretold, and my impulsive verse will linger in the minds of future bards throughout the ages. Lowly, toil-worn men shall think of me as a trusty friend who sang their bitter woes in burning words. My life is ebbing fast. My task is done, and I but wait upon this silent shore, like one who feels the solemn mystery of fleeting days and looks with earnest eyes while the great world moves on, bearing its freight of dead and living souls, none knoweth where.
John, very well done.
Yeah, it very was. It was a great piece of writing, that. Yeah, the reflections of a revolutionary poet.
Oh.
Who wrote that?
Arthur Pratchett Martin.
Oh.
About Leigh Hunt's account of his visit where he met Shelley. And so it's about Shelley. Yeah. All right, Gladys, come on up.
Oh, it's lovely under this heater, Ashley. Hey, beaming down.
Okay.
Right, there's
Yes,
yours.
go for it, Gladys.
Okay, right. Well, good evening, guys in here and out there. This is one from Myra Sweeny, as I said, was related to me. She's got a couple of books out and possibly more. But this one is just called A Wandering Star. I dreamed I saw a wandering star moving slowly through the night. It seemed to beckon from far and keep on moving out of sight. A wandering star, you seem to say, come with me, I will show you where. There's a happy place not far away, come with me, I will take you there. A wandering star, you travel on, you promise shining, oh so bright. A lovely star to wish upon, just out of reach in the dark of night. Will you ever rest, a wandering star, or will you wander on forevermore? Will you keep on shining from afar? Will you find what you're looking for? You hold my dreams, a wandering star. You are free to wander where you will. Sometimes I wonder where you are, but I know that you're wandering still. Well, that sounds not that quite
Yeah.
nice. Okay. And thanks, John. So, but,
Thank you, Gladys, very, very much.
yeah.
Well, it's good to have Gladys here reading out.
That can use it on.
Myra Sweeny, who was related to Gladys's poem.
Yes,
Yeah.
she's very, very talented woman.
Now, she's got a very sad one in there about a box, hasn't she?
Yeah, well, what she's sort of talking about here is sort of something, well, it reminds me of something that I've got down about, but it's a ship in the night. And it's just sort of something, yeah. So anyhow, that's life.
All right. Here we are. Which one have I? It's this page here I've got.
Yeah, well, who's that, Laura Jones? It was, it's very interesting, that. It's,
Yeah,
it's
Arthur.
it's sort of
So his name was
it's
Arthur Pratchett Martin.
Martin, yeah.
So I'm going to look him up and do a bit of research on him because I'm very interested.
What
Yeah.
was I reading about the other?
I know the name, but just in general reading of 1800s.
Who was I reading about the other day, and he was a poet. I must have been reading in a book or something.
This guy wrote quite a few articles, books, poems, etc. Yeah.
No, it's very interesting. It's
Yeah.
it sort of follows on well, doesn't it?
It does. All right.
Yeah.
Now I got a couple more that I'm going to read out on my own here tonight. Because I've got them ready. The great toilet paper shortage of 2020 was not a hit because when people went to the toilet they couldn't wipe their bum after their shit. The great toilet paper shortage of 2020 was definitely a miss because none of the Sheilas could clean themselves after a piss. Oh, the great toilet paper shortage of 2020 was stinky and dumb because nobody in the entire world could wipe their bum. Yuck, it was getting smelly, wasn't it? Oh yes. It's getting worse, it's just getting worse. The great toilet paper shortage of 2020 affected me and you because hanging from everyone's bum were dags of poo, like sheep. And finally, the great toilet paper shortage of 2020 was strange because from fear of a cold, people's behaviour changed. Yeah.
They did.
They did. Yeah, that's a fact. Here we go. This was actually inspired by Ashley last week, this next little quatrain.
Yeah.
Because he mentioned that there's, what 500,000 guns or something, million guns, I don't know. 500,000 guns to move?
I forget now. Whereabouts?
You said someone had 500,000 guns they needed to sell. It was mentioned in the...
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Weapons of war, anyway. Got to love war when the price of gold and silver rises and the weapon stocks and shares go up. No surprises. As people die, the investors get richer because there's 500,000 guns to move. Get the picture? It's a pretty simple one, that one. Now the other one, this one really sometimes I get this sort of like feelings of people and I really sort of analyse the emotional states of people. Well, I saw our sovereign, the one who is the ruler of us all, Charles III, and he was in his coach, and he was like going, and he's looking really upset and angry. Anyway, someone had translated it what a lip reader said, and he was like, "Oh, this is so boring. I wish I didn't have to do this kind of stuff." Yeah. It kind of got me, like, he's a bit like a prisoner. He's a prisoner of his life. Today I saw a king and he was looking kind of sad, impatient, also angry, and things were making him mad. An advice from a descendant of a king to another king, my family long ago gave up the sovereign ruler thing. They conquered and warred, took more than they need, but there was an emptiness in spite of the greed. King William was strong, fit and led a strong fight, but died in pain, corpulent, unfit, overweight. And I feel your pain, Charles. Your upset is apparent, like you're forced into a position that you resent. You're the king who's a prisoner of pomp and tradition, who's stuck in a palace where nobody will listen. If it were me in a palace, I'd take off my crown, free myself from the burden, tear the whole monarchy down. I'd get rid of my frown, put a smile on my face, stop being a clown, fret, set free the whole human race, give back what was stolen from past generations, return all the stolen commonwealth to current generations. Build a house out of driftwood on a tropical beach, far from the media and the whole world's reach. Go swimming naked in the surf without any underdags. Drink a coconut in a hammock, put my feet up and relax. But that's me. I'd do it, though it takes a lot of guts. But it's your choice, King Charles III, if you want to drink coconuts.
King Charles. Yes.
Yeah. And when his mother was alive, it always sort of kind of played on my mind how to be born into a position where you're told that you are like better and God-given right to rule over everyone, and then you have to play this role of the sovereign that you're sort of forced into, knowing that it's sort of like just all pomp and pageantry.
He was molded into the role.
And it's taken him until he was, what, 70?
Yes.
Over 70?
Yes, a king, first king in 70 years. So,
here's a thought for you, right? If we took all the people in the world and we sat them next to each other in their own 1 metre square, next to each other, right? We could actually fit all the people in the world, that's 8,100,000,000 people, in a square, 90 kilometres by 90 kilometres. How's that? That's pretty small. It's pretty small, isn't it? Like that's between Brisbane and the Gold Coast, out to Ipswich. You could fit nearly all the people in the world in that area. Yeah, 90 kilometres by 90 kilometres. Because that's 90,000 metres by 90,000 metres equals 8,100,000,000 square metres. Yeah. It's pretty small, isn't it, really? And look at the impact some people have. Us, in particular, with our huge consumption of these devices. All right, let's move right along. Ashley, are you ready to come on?
Yeah. Well, what's that line in the Bible? War and the rumours of war. Here are my trusty friends. Hypothesis, implications, and parameters of the hypothesis and implications. But as I often say, really we have the three aspects in timelessness together, as we have in many triplets, such as id, ego and superego. They all take place in a instantaneity. They're not really separated by boom. And perhaps in time, physicists tell us nothing and nobody is separated. But what the connections of togetherness and communion is, we can but poeticize. Well, what have I been reading? Which is usually a step I make in the rhetoric of this. I've been watching Chinese soapies. There are so many, and they reflect what is truly a vast, vast system. And there are just hundreds of them, and 10% are of really superlative quality. Behind all these events of conflict and turmoil, we have a reality that if you take away Japan and Singapore and the prosperous white-fella style systems, and you look at the peoples of the South and the Southern world, We are 40 times wealthier than they are, at least. And that's a terrible line to draw, to measure this side and that side from. So there are so many hundreds of millions of people who don't get much suck of the juice bottle, as one of our Prime Ministers would have said. I enjoyed that Charles Harpur made me think that rain and lightning and all of those things in Chinese thought are generally, I think, male. The dragon is a male upward force exploding down into Mother Earth. One thing I did, although I haven't been reading, I've been brooding, is rewrite this morning all of A Soldier's Death to Us, which I read last week, and it reminds me once again that to really start to squeeze out what Stevie Smith says on the hearth rug next to that fire, one has almost to live it by writing it. And I saw so many structural connections and profound questionings in that wonderful poem, A Soldier's Death to Us. I would like to make a plug for Armadale's production of The Winter's Tale. I think there's 4 more performances to go, and you book on the computer and you have an experience. Shakespeare's last plays are things of puzzlement and wonderment. So I really recommend The Winter's Tale on next to the racecourse at Armadale. That's an Armadale experience. I like the line in Arthur P. Martin's poem, as but stones to ford a passing stream. That's a very universal thought, isn't it? As stones to ford a passing stream. Beautiful thought. So tonight I'll read one poem related to the world situation and another poem by Les Murray that is perhaps relevant in some way. I'll start with the Les Murray and finish with the ancient Persian thoughts that are very germane, spelt with an E, I think. Nice word for relevance, isn't it? Germane, or germs, the germs of the moment that are connecting us to further moments that are not of the moment. Here we have Les Murray speaking of Sydney, from his Sydney high-rise variations. It is possible the heights of this view are a museum, though the high-rise continues desultorily along some ridges. Canned housing, strata title, see-through office spaces, upright bedsteads of harbour view, residential Soviets, the cranes have all but vanished from the central upsurge. Hot air, money dry, is towering double entry, Freud's cobwebbed poem with revolving restaurant. They took 80 years to fly here from Manhattan, these variant towers. By then, they were arriving everywhere. In the land of veneers, of cladding of Cape Codding, I shall have Cape Codded. They put on heavy side. The iron ball was loose in the old 5-story city, clearing bomb sites for them. They rose like nouveau accents and stilled for a time the city's conversation. Their arrival paralleled the rise of the consumers, gazing through themselves at iconoclasms, wines, Danish modern ethics. Little we could love expanded to fill the spaces of high glazed prosperity. An extensive city that had long contained dimensions of heaven and hell couldn't manage total awe at the buildings of the Joneses. Their reign coincided with an updraft of ideology, that mood in which the starving spirit is fed upon the heart. Employment and neckties and ruling themes ascended into the towers, but they never filled them, squinting at them through the salt and much-washed glass of her history. The city kept her flavour fire ladder high, rarely above 3 stories. In ambitious battle at length, she began to hedge the grills of aspiration, to limit them to standing on economic grounds, with their twists of sculpture. On similar grounds, we are stopped here, still surveying the rigid plain of houses, enormous England's buried gulag, the stacked entrepot great city of the Australians. I always wonder about Les Murray, but he keeps me wondering. Well, how many people would love to be in that gulag, or to have a Jones's house on a ridge above that sublime harbour? So there's a bit of a contradiction always in his social criticism. But we love to read him, and he's a voice that will be voiced. So this is my comment on the present situation in Western Asia. Looking towards the black flags. Looking towards the black flags. Are the wayfarers there yet, crawling over red snow? Sunset and dawn together, and the chants, the prayers. On our knees we feel the Messiah ahead of us. None dare the head and eyes to raise. The flapping of the great black aloft banners. Over the white snow our King comes. Head and eyes we raise if we be seen. From shrines in Kurthon, from distant Nashapur and Tur. That's all in far northeast Persia, or as they say when they were in love with Nazi vocabulary, Aryan or Iran.
Thank you, Ashley, very much. Now, here's the most recent thing that I've written. A bit of a thought. An oligarchy is ruled by a few, plutocracies ruled by the rich. Here's a thought. The whole world is living under government by an oligarchic plutocracy, masquerading under the false illusion of being a representative democracy. Pretty much. You'll get your say, you get to vote yes or no, and you get to choose a politician, and that's the representative illusion. Now, on that note, here is something I wrote called Repress, the Cult of Oligarchs. And Repress is the name of a fictional, metaphorical nation. And I was trying to know what I was doing. I was doing a study of how statism is like a cult, like the belief in government is like a cult. How governments are like cults, and anyway, here we go. Not all, but yeah, all to some extent, more or less. In Repress, a land of woe, the oligarchs rule and all must bow. They masquerade as democracy, but their power is a tyranny. The people live in fear and dread, their voices silent, spirits dead. Propaganda fills the air and truth is hidden everywhere. The oligarchs amass their wealth while the People toil, bereft of health, they plunder and they steal and lie, and yet the people dare not cry. For oppress is like a cod, doubt, dissent are shunned and smote. The oligarchs demand your soul and leave you nothing to make you whole. But hope still glimmers in the dark, a spark of freedom in your heart. One day the people will rise up and cast the oligarchs from their sup. Then each sovereign will be reborn, a land where all are free and sworn to build a world better and new, where justice reigns and dreams come true.
Very good.
Yeah, thanks, Gladys. No, I don't believe Sky has anything for us tonight.
Oh,
well.
she does not. Well, that's disappointing.
That's all right. I got one I wrote for on her behalf this morning. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Here's one. I haven't named it, but when I go, oh, no, I'll just go beep because it rhymes with hunt. Okay. To his friends he seemed so friendly, to the animals he was a beep. So many poor lives ended by the man who loved to hunt. And when his hunting stopped, he'd sip upon a beer, proud of how he'd shot so many baby deer. Behind closed doors, his family only knew him to be cruel, his psychopathic daddy and his shed of torture tools. His hunting cabin in the hills kept secrets by the score. If only cabins could speak of ills the tortured souls it saw. He'd drive up there on Friday, executing his nefarious plan. Return to home on Sunday, a satisfied, rejuvenated man. He showered gifts upon his wife. Thursday he would beat her. She feared weakly for her life and worried that he'd eat her. He'd pick up homeless, destitute, give them a comfortable bed. He'd hunt and torture prostitutes and buried countless dead. I already said that, didn't I? He showered gifts upon his wife. Thursday he would beat her. She feared, I just repeated myself. She feared weakly for her life and worried that he'd eat her. He was a psycho killer, hunting baby, deer and people. To him it was a thriller, but he was pure evil. To his friends he seemed so friendly, to the animals he was a beep. So many poor life ended by the man who loved to hunt. Yeah, there's that was written for somebody actually, not for you. There's a bit of a backstory I've got to explain to you later about that too. 10 little pixies. Oh, this was another one. I woke up in the middle of the night and I'm like, oh, I haven't written anything in the middle of the night for a little while. And I'm like, 10 pixies. Oh, no, I thought to myself, oh no, if I'm going to go like a countdown, like 10, 9, 8 little, 10 little pixies, that's going to be a really long poem. But I thought, no, I'm going to cut it short. Let's make it a bit shorter. Will it squash the pixies? Pretty much, yeah. 10 little pixies were standing on the street. Along came a giant looking for pixies to eat. One slow little pixie didn't get away, but the other 9 pixies had a very lucky day. 9 little pixies were sitting in the park. The sun set and they were sitting in the dark. One little pixie left his friends for home. Only 8 pixies were left. One was lost alone. 8 little pixies went swimming in the sea. A great white shark had a feast on 3. 5 little pixies with 5 lost friends, and this isn't where this tragic tale ends.
You're not jokes.
It gets worse. 5 little pixies sat beneath a gum tree. A large branch fell, boom, and killed another 3. 2 little pixies decided to repopulate. Unfortunately, neither knew how to copulate.
Oh.
Two little pixies were sitting in bed when one cut off the other pixie's head. Oh no, it's getting messy. One little pixie sitting in blood and gory. A meteorite fell from Mars. End of story.
Yeah, that's the end of the story.
P.S. A lost little pixie found his way back home. Found the other pixies dead and gone. Couldn't resuscitate no matter how he tried. The cops came and he was charged with pixie-cide.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, that's what happens, comes out of my mind in the middle of the night. Yeah, and have I got something finally today? The news cycle. So this was written, what, 10 hours ago, probably, after yoga and meditation, before I started my day sitting over there in the middle of nowhere. The news cycle, finally. Over to you, Mike, our reporter on the ground. Coming to you live from the latest war. Well, technical issues, it seems we've lost sound. In other developments, there are more poor people in the economy. Is looking rather grim. The left and the right march in step, left, right. Chance of a recession is far from slim. Distraction of dolphin circuses, boxing fight. What happened yesterday is forgotten today and supplanted by gossip and fear. Public relations is propaganda at play, 25 hours a day, 367 days a year. There's a siege in the street, man with a gun, politicians open monuments of lies, distracted by fear. Beware of the sun! So much that the news cycle disguised. That's that. The end. The end of the news, the weather. And the weather here in Gyra has gotten really lovely. Yeah, and we're finished. I'm done. And anyone else would like to come on up, do something else?
I could have a request.
Yeah, sure.
I know you don't like them to do them impromptu. Another poem of Charles Harpur.
I'd love to, yeah, he's really good.
He sure is.
He's recognised as one of our greatest early poets, yeah.
Well, he doesn't even have to go under that epithet, does he, early?
No.
He's a really timeless voice. I used to often chat about him with Dr. Sharkey and Michael and all that generation going back to Judith Wright, who wrote about him. They all thought he was Major.
Yeah.
Hello, Major.
Well, what I've done before is Midsummer's Afternoon in the Australian Bush, or one I haven't done, The Vision of the Rock. I'll do The Vision of the Rock. I sat upon a lonely peak, a backward river's course to view, and watched the changing shadows freak its liquid length of gleaming blue, streaked by the crane's slow gliding o'er, or checkering to the leafy roar of woods that neath me grew, or curdling dark as high overhead. The gathering clouds before the sounding breezes fled. Straight I bethought how once the scene spread in its primal horror there, when but some lone bird's weary threne, or howlings from the wild dog's lair, or rush of startled kangaroo, as near some stealthy savage drew, with hunger in his air, or from the stream some murmured sound broke the dread slumbrous calm of solitude profound. A change came over my thoughts behind, a length of coming time I threw till rounded me on that rock reclined, its folds prophetic vision drew, and purpling like the morning gave mine eyes to freedom's birth to have, a seeming anti-view as haply in brave promise stole his country's pure weal o'er a youthful Hampden soul. All round me villages up grew, at once with orchards clumped about, and oft between tall pine rows through, some mansion's pillared porch looked out. And thickening up from alleys green, where rustic groups in dance were seen, came merry cry and shout, while from tall groves beyond the cheer of maidens' laughter, soft, broke in rich wavelets near. And in the gusts that overpassed, the stir of neighbouring cities came, whose structures in the distance massed proclaimed their opulence and fame. O'er fields of ripening plenty viewed, o'er hills with white flocks fleeced and strewed, with herds that grazed the same, while on the paven roads between the crowding chariots came with rapid rolling din. Now, gaining depth, the vision lay around my being like a law, so that my spirit might not say, but all was real that I saw. I marked my youth and made impressed by love's sweet power elude the rest. As they nearer drew, I list the vow that each imparts, folded within the spells of harmonising hearts.
Very good.
Makes a nice companion for the Les Murray.
Yeah. An interesting structure to it too, as you look into it. That I really enjoyed it, and I will do one more because
Yeah, nice
I'm here.
You're here because you're here because you're here. Here.
Love, dreaming of death. I dreamt my little boys were dead, and I was sitting wild and lone, on closed, unmoving knees. My head lay rigid as a stone. And thus I sat without a tear, and though I drew life's painful breath, all life to me seemed cold and drear, and comfortless as death. Sat on the earth as on a bier, where loss and ruin lived alone, without the comfort of a tear, without a passing groan. And there was stillness everywhere, ensphering one wide sense of woe, the stillness of a world's despair, whose tides had ceased to flow. Yea, so eternal seemed my grief. Time moved not, neither slow nor fast nor rocked. I weather periods brief of centuries had passed. It was as if to marble cold my loss had petrified the air, and I was shut within its hold, made deathless by despair. Made deathless in a world of death, there ever sitting wild and lone, with all but one pent, painful breath, transmuted into stone. And more the gorgon hunger crushed with dry petrific pressure in, till forth my waking spirit rushed with agonizing din. Oh, what joy it was to wake, to cast that haggard dream away, and from its stony influence break into living day. I sought the objects of my care and felt, while I embraced the twain, how much even from a dream's despair a father's love may gain. There's a finishing part to this. When this dream record long ago I penned, how little did I dream that yet a distant coming woe was shadowed in its theme. For of that beloved twain, the lips of one, then warm with breath, I have since kissed, unkissed again, for they were cold in death. A swift, wild death, and when I think of all that I have lost thereby, my heart hath pangs that seem to drink all Myra's waters dry. Yea, pangs that would my life destroy, did faith not whisper oft between, peace, sire of an immortal boy, beyond this mortal scene.
Very good, James.
Yeah.
I'm getting out.
Love dreaming of death.
Before I tell you to pumpkin.
Okay. Good night, Gladys, and good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like it and leave a comment. Where are you watching from? And what did you enjoy?